16 and a half hours on a page midnight to midnight? That can't be legal. Or can it? G'day, it's Rob from Freddy's Brisbane. A little while ago I did a video which was in 4 parts on putting 16 hours on a page midnight to midnight and how it was perfectly legal. That video actually got forwarded onto the NHVR, who went through the video and complimented me on how it explained counting hours. So this video is 16 and a half hours midnight to midnight on a BFM book, so 14 hours allowable. 16 and a half hours midnight to midnight, perfectly legal, and I'll show you how it's done. This is a recreation of a trip I did from Melbourne to Brisbane some time ago now, that actually triggered the safety cam cameras to send a letter to say that they believed that I'd broken the time and fatigue regulations between the cameras at Albury and the cameras at Chindra. Now, that required me to send in 4 copies of Yellow Pages, 2 for the trip, the night and the morning of the trip, and 1 page either side to show my work. And it eventually ended up with no response whatsoever. There was no problem, and they conceded that there was no issue to deal with. This is 100% legal, although I don't recommend you do it if you don't understand the rules. So here we go. So this is 3 pages that I've done here. This is a Monday, a Tuesday and a Wednesday. On the first page, it's come off a 24-hour break, and we start at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m, half an hour drive from Hallam round to Clayton to where the trailer was being loaded. Now, wasn't planned, but as it turned out, the trailer wasn't ready to go, and unfortunately it wasn't until midnight that the trailer was ready to go. So for this particular day, all I've done is half hour between 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. So half hour and 23 and a half hours. That's all we could do for the day. So we finally got away at midnight. So this is day 2. So now remember, my 24-hour period starts at 7 p.m. where I started my day. Now, midnight, got going. Clayton drove through to Gundagai, Tuckerbox Shell Roadhouse. Took 6 hours, had a 15-minute break, and then did another 2.25 hours through to Marulan. Now that's 100% legal in every respect. I've done no more than 6 hours in 6:15. I've done only 8.25 hours in 9, and we didn't even get to the 11 hours in 12. At Marulan, a 7-hour break, and we now commence our new 24-hour period starting at 3:30 p.m. Start at 3:30 p.m. and run through to 9:30 p.m, which is a 6-hour stretch. Again, 6 hours is allowable on BFM, 6 hours in 6.25. Now, how about the previous day, you ask? Now, the previous day started at 7 p.m. So if we count the hours up, we have half an hour between 7 and 7:30, and then from midnight the next day we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 2.25, 8.25 plus that original half hour, which is 8.75, and then we have until 7 o'clock the next evening, 8.75, 9.75, 10.75, 11.75, 12.25. 12.25, I'm allowed 14, so no problem with 24 hours. So we start the next day at 3:30 p.m. 6 hours to 9:30 p.m. takes us through to Thrumpster, which is the BP at Port Macquarie. Another 2.25 hours takes us through to Halfway Creek to the Shell. And I then stop for a 45-minute break and continue into Brisbane. After a 45-minute break, take off at 12:45, through to Moorooka at 4:45. There was a break, another 2.25 hours. I had to move the truck in to get unloaded at 7. I was on break again for 45 minutes, and then half an hour to sort the trailer out, and then drive around to the Archerfield BP. Then had another 7-hour break, and I'd be technically legal to start again at 3:30 p.m. Now let's have a look at that day. So my first 24-hour period started at 7 p.m. and I only did 12.25 hours between 7 p.m. and 7 p.m. the following day. And my second 24-hour period started at 3:30 p.m, whereupon I did 8 1/4, 8 1/2, 9 1/2, 10 1/2, 11 1/2, 12 1/2, 13 hours before I pulled up at Archerfield. Again, 1 hour to spare, not even close to 14 hours in 24. Because I started at 3:30 p.m, I must have a 7-hour break in that 24-hour period. So a 7-hour break is from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And I can then start again fresh with a brand new 24-hour period starting at 3:30 p.m. with no overlaps whatsoever. So that is how you put 16.5 hours on a page. It's perfectly legal. You've just got to get the timing right. Now again, don't recommend trying to do it unless you understand the rules and you can explain the rules. Occasionally you get the odd officer, but more likely police than an HVR, who don't understand the rules and you might have to explain it. So unless you fully understand the rules yourself, don't get yourself in the situation, because although it'll be proven to be correct in the end, it may cause you some grief in the meantime. Safe trucking out there.